today's video, we are going to talk about what to do with the content you have spent so much time creating. And I hope you're clicking on this video because you've got a question like I received about this, which is we've spent time creating content and nobody's watching it. So this is something that I think a lot of people struggle with, especially when you think that there might not be the right return on the investment of time and sometimes money that you have that you're putting into the content that you're creating. Specifically in this example, we're looking at having a webinar style presentation that is designed to promote a product and service or really, really great research. And we've done a fair bit of this. I guess I should backtrack a little bit and kind of explain why I figured this out for some of our clients. So if we fast forward or rewind all the way back to 2020, we were put in a situation where a couple of clients had in-person events that were a significant portion of their revenue that was coming in. And they really didn't want to lose any more of the revenue that they were predicting to lose because of all of the uncertainty happening with in-person events and everything that was going on. And so this allowed us to take what we'd been doing for many years as part of lead generation and having a webinar funnel and turn it into a deep dive into online event platforms, learning management software, and figuring out how to have an online experience that could rival what they'd be experiencing in person attending an event, but also knowing that it wasn't going to be perfect. The networking side of things, when everyone's spending half of their day on Zoom, isn't going to feel as special as being able to interact one-on-one. And fast forward 5 years now, what that's turned into has been the event side for online presentations, product launches, virtual summits, all of that stuff. Yes, we can still do that, but the stakes are totally different because the option to have something in person is also something that we do. And you can kind of learn a little bit more about that if you want to check it out. It's 323.media/events. And you can kind of get an idea of how we do the production side of things, the hybrid aspect, the replays, what we're about to talk about in this video, and also the merch and the sponsorship, the branding, the marketing, the ticket sales, all of that stuff. So the idea is that a client can come to us and say, I've got people that want to attend an event that I'm going to put on. I have great content that I know speakers are going to deliver on, and we can kind of help them deliver the best presentation, the best event, and put together the right tools to complement what they may already have in-house or with other vendors that they're working with. So this evolved into doing hybrid events. And it also evolved into doing online courses because a lot of the content that was being created was timeless. It was actually a lot better than it would be available for just the people that are in the audience. It would apply to more than the couple hundred people that were attending a conference. In fact, in some industries, it's actually so valuable that it can be resold because of certain industries requiring continuing education credits or CE credits or a variation of that to allow people to continue their licensing and continue their activity within the industry. And so it can actually turn into this really profitable thing, but it can be profitable without having a massive audience. So when you see your favorite YouTubers that are launching a video and with a couple hours, they've got thousands and thousands of views, or you look at Mr. Beast, he hits numbers within the first 24 hours of releasing one episode on his main channel, then TV shows in most places won't get for an entire season. Those numbers can ramp up. But to be profitable with the content you're creating, you don't need that at all. Your content can be made to appeal to a group that is incredibly specific. In this example, I started off the video talking about, anybody who creates content. We've now narrowed it down to people that create content that's within an event format. And now we're talking about it as people that have the ability to repurpose it into different ways. And so narrowing that down is more likely that somebody's going to be attracted to the content that I'm talking about. They're clicking on 323media/events, and they're more likely to turn into a client. What does that mean for my platform metrics? Well, that means that within the first 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 2 minutes of the video, there's probably a lot of people that are going to drop off. And that's totally okay because maybe there's something that they could have learned if they stuck around, but they definitely wouldn't be somebody who could learn and apply this right away or figure out that we're the right fit for somebody to help them. And so this concept is something that I think more people need to understand. And so if you're watching this right now and you're sticking around, I hope that you're an event planner, you're a brand, you're a keynote speaker, and you have something you've done live that you want to be able to look and figure out what to do next. The first step that I encourage you to do is actually during that live portion. During the live portion, we coach a lot of speakers on how to get ready for their performance, and there's usually 3 things that they're missing out on. The first is qualifying that the audience is exactly who is present, and being able to do that with a quick 1 or 2 survey questions that you can do in the audience, just so that throughout the rest of your talk, you're able to speak to them more accurately. In a really simple example, this is like having a prospect that you can either gain trust with or lose because you're using the wrong name of who they service. Clients, customers, patients. Knowing that way of referencing them doesn't change your data or your approach or your service. It just changes the way that you're customizing it for your audience. So that's tip number 1 for the people when you're doing it live, is encourage them to ask a couple of questions. The engagement that you get by using a live interactive tool is really cool. And people look at it on the screen and they're like, wow, no way. If I ask, who's a business owner here, or who's 5 years into their career, or who's 10 years away from retirement? Well, just those 3 questions alone can be a dramatic change in terms of how you're going to change the way that you discuss what you're talking about, or the way that you may point out different information on a slide that has data. Using one of the tools, for us, we have 3 different tools that we like to do the data visualization like that live, but it is also really effective to be able to go back and not just remember in your mind that half of the room had their hand up, but actually be able to get some of those numbers because maybe it's helpful for your follow-up. But it also becomes incredibly efficient. Having their phone out because they've scanned a QR code or gone to a URL to be able to punch in the answer really quickly is super handy. And then when you get to question number 2 or question number 3, it is great information and it's something that they can do immediately. So that's point number 1, is really figure out, customize your audience and really figure out your voice. The second thing is the takeaway at the end. I am not a fan of seeing a slide that says questions, email me. Questions, ask, because it doesn't give you as a presenter the right way to keep in touch with the people that are in your audience. If you have something to sell, clear it with the event planner first. Make sure that it's okay that you're able to talk about the book that you have, or the service that you have, or a free tool that you have. Be really transparent with them, because I can guarantee that they're probably thinking about other ways that they can help you promote it if it's going to mean something to their audience. So for example, when I did a talk about content marketing, I gave a free audit that people could do. And I was very clear with the presenter that I was doing this. This was 2 years ago. And I said, look, I want to be able to offer this for the first 50 people. There's 250 people in the audience. I'm going to give this presentation. Since we don't have time for a workshop, I'm going to go through some examples that they can do themselves. But the first 50 people, I'd be happy to do an audit with them and do a free call with them. And it turned into 50 new people on my newsletter list, which is great. But the reality is I actually got 200 people on that list, but there was only 50 that I promised that would get the free session. And so it worked out really well to be able to say, great, here's a way that I can build my funnel. Here's a way that I can differentiate myself from other people. And here's how I can add more value to your audience who's buying a ticket. And so have that in mind. What is that follow-up that you want people to do? Because I know you're probably not wanting 1,000 people that are in front of you to email you some random question about slide 47. It's really not a great use of time. And they don't think it's a great use of time either, but you open the door to be able to say, hey, this is something that is there. So that's point number 2, is have the right follow-up funnel in place that people can easily access. That should be your last slide. While you are taking questions, leave that QR code in the background, let people scan it, get to your page, and this is step number 3, which is have a process that you've completely figured out ahead of time of how you're going to respond to those people. It can be a really easy follow-up funnel, something that gives an autoresponder with the report that you reference, an autoresponder that gives them access to the slides that you had just presented, things that are really low-hanging fruit, work that you've done already. Now, with these things, again, clear with the event planner. Maybe they have a Dropbox that they already have all of the slide decks available for the attendees, and so it's kind of redundant, but do something that is valuable for them taking action in the first step of following up to your presentation. Next is looking at what you do after that live content. So everything we just talked about was little tweaks to your presentation so that you can gain more gain more trust from the audience, and the audience can get more value from you. So you're leveraging what you have as a way to win. So this is where now we're switching from the things that the presenter can do, which can be really encouraged by the event planner to say, yo, let's get this right. Let's make sure this is something that you can hit a home run on and you can get value from our audience too. Now we're shifting to post-conference, and how are we making things available? What value does this have? Well, the way that we look at it is we go through that content that was presented on the schedule and we look at it and say, what is worth a replay? What is worth a soundbite? And what shelf life does each of these presentations have? And the reason that the third point is really important is if you're dealing with financial data, like with some of the presentations that we work with, it is very, very timely. When someone's giving their impact and outlook on the market conditions, if they're not talking about really broad sweeping concepts, they're going to lose the audience in the room. But if you have those broad sweeping topics that are then just nailed to really specific trends and things that are happening within the data that the audience is going to love, you lose your ability to have the replays. And so that is a thing that's hard to balance. I think it's more about understanding what happens in different market conditions and what macro terms could be used and explained to then talk about the data as an example of that concept. And that can be something that is dependent on the speaker. Some people are really excellent at this, and others just get asked too many questions or focus on just those specific things that are happening immediately. Once you have those things that are classified, start getting into the editing. Is it something that you're doing in full as a full replay? Is it something that you're adding on to your LMS as a knowledge area or a course that you're using that you're selling? Or are you just able to use that as a clip to save for social media and use to promote? Use to promote your speaker, use to promote your overall conference, used as an example for future. All of these things of what you can do with the content is really important. However, without the incentive, don't ever count on people watching the replay. And I will say that again, don't ever count on people watching the replay. We see this with webinars, we see this with product launches, we see this with events themselves. Without there being a reason for them to rewatch, whether that is getting some sort of certification, rewatching or seeing the QR code that is on a screen, getting a specific stat or quote that's coming out of it, there's a really difficult time getting those extra replays to the point that sometimes it doesn't even feel like it's worth it to make things available after they're live. So be really honest with your expectations. Is this worth it if we're going to publish this as a course? And if we don't promote it beyond the attendees that saw it live, are we going to get anyone that's watching it? And I think that's where the marketing of this bank of content is the problem that a lot of people have. They may have hours and hours of content that they've been able to create, and now it's like, well, what do I want? So let's go through that and talk about that specific part of it. When you say, what do we want to get out of it? That's actually more important than anything else. If you can actually look at it and say, we've got this bank of content, now what do we want to create out of it? Sometimes it may surprise you. If you have those 5 or 10 different webinars, like there's a lot of people on LinkedIn that did an incredible job over the last year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, creating a bank of knowledge that they've done with a weekly webinar or a monthly webinar or a quarterly webinar, that you should now be thinking about it and saying, we should re-edit this in a way that says, here's our annual insights. Here's the way that we have 10 takeaways that are from industry experts. Those are the things that you can do to add value for that audience. Giving them a raw replay when the presentation sometimes isn't really the most compelling for somebody to say, I want this to be the next hour of my time. Figure out how you can change the format so you can change the game. and go from being the event planner and the host of a webinar or a podcast and turn that into being the authority in your space. What are those top 10 takeaways on this particular topic? What are the thought leaders in this industry talking about? And do those recaps. This is something that was really popular on YouTube and on blogs in the early 2010s, and that was doing roundup posts. Well, guess what industry is still crushing it with that? The food industry. Having roundup recipe blogs for what to cook tonight, how to find the best meals in 30 minutes, what to do with a slow cooker, how to do things for kids who are picky eaters. You can kind of see my internet history a little bit there of what I'm Googling on a lot of afternoons, but it gives you an idea of this format can still work. You might need to change the topics a little bit. You know your industry the best. But taking a bank of content, chopping it down, and putting it together as different pieces or different clips is being consumed in a really interesting way now. Here's why. With the algorithms for shorts and for reels and for any sort of short form video content, the watch time is actually really, really well received. The shorts that you can see on our channel, for example, they are something that pops incredibly faster than any of the videos that we put out because there's less people who are publishing shorts. All of those shorts are not unique content. They're taken from these main channel videos and they're turned into clips and they work really well. It allows you to have a quick snack size introduction in terms of who you are, what you do, how you know. So you're already getting that piece of content that is there. Now, if you were to group 10 of those pieces together and say, these are the best 10 recipes, you now have enough content for it to be a long form video. Add in 30 seconds in the beginning, maybe some voiceover in between. It looks like a React video. It looks like it's something that is narrated. Have your voiceover that's ready to go. And you've got an awesome repurposed content that then serves another purpose, which is within the description, linking to all of the full-length videos. So you've now created a 3-step process, 3 tiers of getting people interested, because it takes way less effort to create those 10 clips, this one roundup video, and then getting people to watch the full videos than it takes to promote those long-form videos. Give people a little bit more information about you, about what is actually presented. What are those golden nuggets? What are the specific takeaways or the things you need to know in that context? And you'll win in a lot bigger fashion with the people who you really want to have that are aware of who you are. You're gaining reputation, you're gaining authority, you're expanding your voice, and this is the cycle that I really encourage a lot of people to do, especially when they're continuously planning these live events, because it gives you access to better speakers. It gives you better access to more information and really great people who are out there. The biggest blunder that I think a lot of event planners do that are finding external speakers is not having an example of what a previous conference was like. And the reason that that's really important to have is because it can actually be a make or break whether a speaker is going to say yes or no, or if they're going to give a mediocre average presentation, or if they're going to give their best presentation yet. And I think that's kind of the culmination of all of this. The bottom line is, I would love to see more of the information that is out there be presented in a better way. I'd love to see better marketing done for a lot of these really fun events and creative opportunities to share knowledge. And I think you can make an impact on that. If you're still here watching to the end of the video, I know these are things that you're probably madly taking notes on. I hope you watch the video again when you're getting into event planning mode and you can start creating those opportunities and figure out different ways that you're able to create more and have a lifespan for the content that's at your conference beyond just the walls of the conference. And this is the way to do it. This is the blueprint. This is the way that you make it. I hope to hear some success stories. If you're interested in more about what we do, check out 323.media/events. And I see you in the next one. Enjoy the video. Have a great day.